I have 45 years in with the Lord, almost 45 years. And I've been thinking I have a lot of testimonies behind me. And I want to start recording some of those testimonies for your edification, just for you to see how faithful God is and how He leads us and what He does. I've come to an age in my life where I'm more just maintaining the testimony. I have not been out too much laboring. I've preached occasionally in a church here or there that asked me to come. But so I'm giving myself to my YouTube channel and my website. And I just want to express the things that God has done in my life as a matter of for edification and for blessing for you. And if you don't like it, you don't have to read it or listen to it, okay? But I'm going to put it out there. I wrote a book a number of years ago about my life through 1988. And I'll probably continue on without writing it. I'll just do it on like this. But I have like 51 chapters in that book. Stories of my life in the Lord, stories before that when I was a child, and the times that I was raised in, just different things that you may enjoy, you may not enjoy. I'll do it in chapter form, one chapter at a time probably on a video. Won't be very long. You just listen to it, then go to the next one if you want to, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. This is called Turtle Tracks. It's a it's a book I wrote, and I'm going to start with the introduction so that you can understand where we're coming from. These are some of the stories of my life. The only thing that may make it interesting to you is that they're stories of my adventures. My entire life has been an adventure with dramatic twists and turns and unconventional thinking. I am a free spirit, void of convention. And just like your life, my life is still unfolding. Had I not had so many of my friends and family urge me to write these few memoirs, I would wait until I'm old and ready to leave this happy stage. But I decided to write it and enjoy. I grew up from the early 1940s through the early 1960s. Much has been written of this era, and it seems to hold a special interest for many people, especially those who were born later in the century. I have avoided including the usual details of the culture of the era, though it will be seen through a veil as my experiences unfold before you. Let me make it clear that I in no way endorse many of the activities of my youth. As a matter of fact, I have not included a lot of them, and most were guided by inherent rebellion against authority. I debated with myself on just how much or how many details I would reveal about my life. I decided that if the last 2/3 of my life were to have credence, I must include much of the 1/3, the first 1/3. I was reckless and loose, and there's been a trace, perhaps more, of that recklessness throughout my life. I think much of that rebellion has turned to resolve and steadfastness over the years. There's probably just enough left in me to make it possible for me to still make my own decisions without the help of politicians and social workers. At least I know now why I was rebellious against most authority. This is not the complete story of my life. It's really a setting down of some of the events of my life in chapter form. I wrangled with myself as to just which stories I should include. Each story represents many more experiences that would be too numerous and tedious for the reader. This story is not a narrative, and though these chapters are numbered and named, they are not always written chronologically, but rather as I remember them and as I place them as I saw fit. You'll find that I repeat some details in various chapters as the occasion seems fitting. I have a remarkable memory for events and dates and names and numbers, and I have endeavored to avoid romancing my past with lies and half-truths. What you will hear is what actually happened. The people in this book are real, and while last names are omitted, the first names were not changed. I do hope that in reading my story, you'll see yourself in many of the pages, and in seeing, you will be encouraged that God really does love you, and He's faithful to do all He says that He'll do. I have a second cousin who is much younger than I. When Jill was about 8 years old, and I was perhaps 40 or so, our families both attended a family event. I didn't really know Jill. She was just a baby to me. But she approached me with a sheet of paper in her hand upon which she had drawn a turtle and colored it green. "This is for you," she said. The caption read, "This is Kennard. He carries his house on his back, and everywhere he goes, he leaves tracks." She could not have known how prophetic that statement was. In reading my story, you'll understand. Therefore, I titled this book, Turtle Tracks. Next chapter coming.